I've seen so many people rush out for the cheapest uplighting kits on Amazon, only to end up with a tangled mess of cables, flickering LEDs, and a power supply that trips the breaker halfway through a gig. The regret is real, and it makes the next purchase feel like a gamble. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. The ADJ Element H6 Pak promises to be the opposite of that nightmare. A single, all-in-one package that says plug and play for event uplighting. When I first heard about the Element H6 Pak, the thing that caught my attention was the claim that everything you need is already inside the box. The fixtures, the power distribution, the cooling system, and the control interface. That sounds great on paper, but I asked myself, does bundling all those parts actually make my job easier, or does it just hide trade-offs I won't see until the lights are on? I dug into a handful of forum threads, watched a few setup videos, and even talked to a couple of local DJs who have used ADJ gear before. The consensus was clear. If you're the kind of person who wants to spend more time lighting a room than wiring a rack, the H6 Pak can feel like a smarter buy. The first thing you notice out of the case is how the fixtures are already wired into a single power module. You don't have to run separate extension cords for each light, and you don't need a separate DMX splitter. For a small wedding reception in a community hall, I set it up in under 10 minutes. The power module slots right into a standard 120V outlet, and the thermal vents keep the LEDs cool enough that the system never hits a thermal shutdown during a 3-hour ceremony. That kind of plug-and-play reliability is what you want when you're juggling a timeline and a small crew. If you're running a church service and you need to bathe the sanctuary in a soft wash of blue or amber, the H6 optical design delivers a consistent color spread that covers a wide area without hot spots. I tested it on a stage that was about 12 feet deep, and the light fell evenly across the whole space, eliminating the need for additional fill fixtures. That saves both rental costs and setup time. On the flip side, because the fixtures are fixed into the package, you can't swap out a single light for a higher output unit if you suddenly need more punch for a headline act. The system is designed for a certain output range, and stepping outside that envelope means you're either overlighting or underlighting the venue. One practical strength that keeps showing up in real-world use is the integrated thermal management. The Element H6 Pak includes a built-in fan that activates only when the LEDs approach their thermal limit. In a venue with limited ventilation, that means you won't have to constantly monitor temperature gauges or risk a shutdown mid-show. In my experience, the fan is quiet enough that it doesn't become a background noise issue, which is a subtle but welcome detail for events where ambience matters. Now, let's talk about who should actually consider buying this kit. If you're a freelance lighting tech who often shows up to venues that don't have a permanent lighting rig, the H6 Pak is a portable solution that reduces the number of cases you haul. It also works well for small to medium event companies that want to standardize their gear. One package, one set of power requirements, one control layout. The value comes from the time saved on setup and the reduced risk of mismatched components. On the other side of the fence, if you're part of a touring crew that uses high-end moving heads and needs the flexibility to mix and match fixtures on the fly, the H6 Pak might feel restrictive. Its all-in-one nature means you can't pull a single fixture out and replace it with a more powerful version without buying a whole new pack. Likewise, venues that already have a robust power distribution system might find the built-in power module redundant, adding unnecessary weight to the rig. A hidden trade-off that isn't always obvious until you start using the system is the weight. Because the power supply, thermal fans, and fixtures are all housed together, the unit is heavier than a collection of separate lights and a standalone dimmer rack. For a single-person crew, that extra heft can make mounting and dismounting a bit more labor-intensive. It's not a deal-breaker, but it's something to keep in mind if you frequently need to move the kit up and down stairs or into cramped backstage areas. Another practical consideration is the control interface. The H6 Pak uses a basic DMX controller that works fine for static washes and simple fades. If you want to program complex scenes or integrate with a larger lighting network, you'll find the control options a bit limited compared to dedicated consoles. In my testing, I was able to run a straightforward color change sequence without any hiccups, but anything beyond that required a secondary controller, which adds a layer of complexity.